Hey guys, back with another Maplestory video here. This time, normal Damien clear. My first time. Appreciate this team. Thanks for them having letting me play kind of as an alternate, getting in there on the Night Lord. And in this video, I wanted to give away kind of my honest impressions, my takeaways, how achievable it is to clear, and what type of gear you need, team comps, things like that. And I want to shout out this team. I was sort of a backseat as far as callouts and things like that. They did use the AI, voice commands for phase 2. That was extremely helpful. But the two sort of leaders were the bishop and the paladin, and they both did a great job with callouts and things like that and leading the team. The team overall was on top of it. They've cleared here and there with alternates, but with their main core pretty much for a few times. I think this might have been their second or third clear. And so I was sort of just in here just getting carried basically. But it was, I guess my initial takeaway was that, there's a lot of wiggle room. Like I die right there. A lot of wiggle room as far as DPS, as far as mechanics for, how much things hit, how much damage the orbs do, how forgiving the altars are. But sort of my number one takeaway for phase 1 is you need some level of consistent, good DPSers. And for the most part, this team was pretty, had a good core that aggro was moving around. DPS was competitive, pretty much top to bottom. And that is sort of what you need for Damien, normal Damien especially, because run to run, one of the biggest factors as far as DPS is orb RNG. And if your top DPSs are getting orbs and you're sort of top heavy, you may not be able to do enough DPS, right? Like for example, if in this run I barely got orb, and I think Ulangi T, who was in second, got it much more than I did. And the roles, since our gear was pretty similar, I think, it allowed us to, even if I was orb and he was DPSing, I think DPS would have still, been sufficient, right? The DPS wouldn't have been an issue. Whereas if, for example, the top 3 DPS had orbs majority of the time, and there were support classes or lower tiered classes or players that weren't getting orb and weren't doing DPS, it just has an effect, a greater, the difference in damage is noticeable, right? So I think having a balanced class, a balanced team of just having good DPSers, good players, is actually quite crucial. And it's not so much needing certain classes. You saw the DPS charts. We had 3 Pathfinders, 2 Night Lords, no Shade, no Sia, only one. I think we had 2 Phantoms, a Bishop and a Paladin. But for the most part, there was no, it's not the typical, it's kind of a mismatch of DPS, right? Overall. And we even had a Xenon in there. And so, and we didn't skip, it didn't affect us at all. Our DPS was still up there. You can see the nice thing about normal Damien is that one orb is very easy to control and allows all these people to pretty much just stand there and DPS, right? Stand there, DPS, not really move too much as long as you can get the dives going in the right directions and the dashes. He's going to be pinned in the corner the entire time, and the orb is not going to be a factor. And so right here, 4 minutes in, we're getting to 60%. And 10 lives. No problems. Even dashes hit much less. The only things that you really have to worry about is dive and the tornado skill, which is tornado towards the end of the fight. If you can dodge that and get blockers up, it's pretty smooth sailing. And and avoid slashes there. It's pretty smooth sailing as far as mechanics. Altars, not really an issue because there's only one orb for the most part. It does obviously get hectic when there's 2 or 3 orbs, but right now, the first 5 minutes of the fight, it's pretty straightforward, right? You're dealing with one orb. I gotta move. That took a little bit long, but yeah, so the first 5 minutes is straight DPS. So if you have big time DPS, I would say maybe, most of us, a few of us are 30 mil. I think there's majority of them are in the mid 20s. And then, so you can see kind of the top 8, DPS besides the Bishop and the Paladin are doing good DPS, right? And again, you need an average of 45 build DPM across the team. So wherever you get that from, the more consistent, the better. Nice blockers there. And right here, see, now we have 2 orbs coming up, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. I would say compared to hard Damien, it's much quicker to pick up. It's less hectic, and obviously it's more forgiving, right? So as long as you're doing the right things, have a good communicator, good leaders, and you're moving these orbs, like altars even moves faster, it clears faster, so you have more wiggle room there as far as needing 5 people versus 3 people. There's more room for error in that. And then you can see that it's just going to get chunked down. Now, even though it's going to be a close fight at the end, there was no real panic, I guess, real worry about not clearing, as long as we controlled the orbs and things like that, kept it left. I thought we had no problems doing DPS. And so here, 3rd orb finally comes out, moving it 7-minute mark, a good time, 10 deaths. So deaths weren't an issue. I think that is one thing that I learned, that as long as you're clearing altars, your life count is going to be high. As long as you're clearing altars, when that's coming at people on it, your death count is going to be really high, and it's going to be very manageable. It's not going to be an issue. It's going to be mainly DPS and uptime. And so here, even pretty soon, is going to be World Tree. Oh yeah, I messed that up. World Tree is going to come up soon, maybe the next 30 seconds. And you can see we're having a little bit of a hard time with the 3 orbs. Unfortunately, I think it is on our aggro there. But for the most part, we handled it very well. Black Altar. Pathfinders are actually really good for Black Altar. And you can see World Tree right here. That thing went down so fast, it wasn't even a problem compared to hard mode. So that is a nice difference. That makes it a lot easier to, not have to feel pressured into stunning it, missing an altar and things like that. It's very, short duration. And so now we're just making sure we control these orbs and kind of just finishing off, getting them to be positioned correctly, orbs to the left, boss to the right. So I would say 90% of it is pretty much standard compared to hard mode and normal mode, and it sort of correlates very, it's very seamless transition. So if you're trying to, if you think that you have enough DPS, I think the mechanics are much quicker to learn, and more forgiving. I keep saying that word, but it really is. And so it seems like if you can find a team that has a few, 30 mil cap DPSs, and then sprinkled in low 20s to mid 20 mil cap players, maybe even less if you have maybe better classes, better team comps, I think it's definitely clearable. Like we had right here, gets a little crazy at the end. I think we forget to do orbs, but we're not really panicked here, right? This looks bad, but it wasn't very sweaty in my opinion. So team did a great job. That was kind of my initial takeaways. Normal Damien. Excited to see more teams clear. I'm excited to see, these teams clearing and showing out DPS wise and mechanics wise. It was very fun. I appreciate the team. Enjoy new content. Can't wait to get more clears going on my Demon Slayer, my Bishop, my Pally, and then transition into hard mode maybe a few months down the road. So thank you again for watching. Thank you to this team for letting me in, and I'll see you guys next time.